Hello everyone, happy Sunday. You're welcome to the JMA Connections this Sunday, the 7th day of the month of June 2026. I'm delighted to be here for us to have another moment of communion, another moment of sharing. And of course, today we are going to be looking at some very, interesting, momentous, but very delicate issues concerning our noisy neighbor, the Republic du Cameroon. And of course, trust me, these are issues that directly intersect with what is happening in the southern Cameroons. And I like us to know that, frankly speaking, the moment that we have been waiting for a long time, that moment is drawing close by day and by night. I mean, as the clock is ticking, that moment is drawing closer and closer and closer. And the big question that each and every one of us in the southern Cameroon should be asking is whether we are ready for what is, lying right before us, whether we are ready for what is coming, whether we are ready to seize the moment. This is why I've been leading a serious crusade, calling on the people of the southern Cameroons to get organized. I want to appreciate our people across the world who are organizing themselves like seriously and understanding that this moment is going to be a very, very, very defining turning point for our liberation movement, that moment that is underway in La République du Cameroon. I want to appreciate the folks of SCAOF who have taken the initiative to organize people, and I'm encouraging people across the board to go out there quite strongly, try to be organized. Even if we're not coming all of us under one very big umbrella, let's be organized even in units that we can easily say, okay, let the various units come together, rise to the occasion when the moment comes. I want to appreciate the Tripartite organization for doing an extremely interesting job coordinating people across the board to see that we are staying mobilized, to see that we are staying focused, to see that we are staying very, very, very strong. We need to continue to do that because what is lying right ahead is really, really important. Before I delve into the beef of our communication today, let's share this thought together. If someone shows you their true colors, don't try to repaint them. If someone shows you their true colors, don't try to repaint them. Look, folks, a lot of our people, a lot of us, even in our normal lives, have run into trouble because people have generally shown us who they are, but we decided to make excuses for them. We refuse to see them and take them for who they are, for whom they are presenting themselves to us to be. We prefer to make excuses for every bad thing that they do. Why? Because we keep feeling that we really need to belong. We really need to get that validation. We really need to be with them. It's the same thing like saying when people tell you who they are, believe them the very first time. Because too often, people always tell us who they are. People always show us who they are. And La République du Cameroon and all its citizens, have shown us over the years exactly whom they are. But the problem is we have continued to make excuses. When I look at people still moving around and parading themselves as unionists or federalists, I ask myself if they are not reading the signs of the times. Because you see, every now and then you get up and shout, oh, they have done it again. Oh, they have cheated us again. Oh, they have marginalized us again. Oh, they have neglected us again. When it is absolutely their modus operandi. It is something they have been doing since 1962, right up to this day. They have never changed. They have never improved. They have never pretended. They have never promised you that they will stop doing it. So why do you sit down yourself, set your own expectations, make yourself promises on behalf of someone, and at the end of the day, you come complaining and wanting to eat yourself up that they are not keeping to promises they never made? Because La République du Cameroon has never made any promise of fairness to the people of the southern Cameroons. La République du Cameroon has never made any promise of ever considering the people of the Southern Cameroons as citizens of their country or as full-blown human beings. They have always been very clear and unmitigating. We are down there. They consider us as subhuman. They consider us as a conquered people, and that is the way they have to treat us. This is what it is. So if you refuse to see this in black and white, and you are there making excuses on their behalf on a daily basis, you are simply looking for a means to continue, crying and to continue falling to pain. This is something that we must know. And once we understand this, it will help us to determine how we act. And I've made this clear over and over. The only way we ever restore our dignity as a people, the only way we ever have the opportunity to define our own development priorities, the only way we ever have the opportunity to make our country re-homeland, a place we can call homeland, where we can also fly from any part of the world and land directly in our homeland, not having to land in La République du Cameroon before start looking for means there to go to our country, not having to import our containers into the ports of La République du Cameroon in Douala or Kredi, pay them custom duties before start struggling to take our goods into our country. The only way that ever happens is that we kick La République du Cameroon out of our territory. And this is what I say every day on this platform without mincing words. The moment we understand that we have to get used to this, the better. Because now take a look at this. First, they started by making sure the major companies that were operating in the southern Cameroons paid their taxes for the La République du Cameroon. Next, they made sure that, they sent their people to rule over us even when they are retired for years on end. Look at somebody like Okalia Bilai Bernard. He's been colonial governor already in Boya for how many years? For over 10 years. The same thing with Lele Lafrik de Ben Chofo in Bamenda. This is what they do. They don't care about us. They don't care about what we think. They don't. They don't give it a damn. And then now they've moved, another notch further by deciding that even the revenue that the people in the informal sector pay as taxes to the local government areas, to the local councils, will now be collected directly by Yaoundé. Doesn't tell anyone a thing. Which means that henceforth, for the mayor in Benakuma, for example, to get a company to clear garbage, they'll have to contact Yaoundé and have to wait for resources to come from Yaoundé to pay for that. They can't do that with money that will be collected on the spot. Because the money that will be collected on the spot, first of all, has to go to Yaoundé. And Yaoundé decides how they disburse that money. If this doesn't pain you enough, if this doesn't seem to you, doesn't come across to you clearly for what it is, a finger being pushed right into your eyes, then nothing will ever mean anything to anyone again in the southern Cameroons regarding what we are facing with La République du Cameroon. That said, let's look at this. I have seen a serious outcry among activists of La République du Cameroon, both in the diaspora and back home. They are screaming all over the place. Suleiman Tobi has died. He died as a martyr. He died in jail. He died in Kondengi. Of course, Tobi was a supporter of the Issa Chiruma's FSNC party. Tobi is one of those two who, was standing very strong to, defend the victory of Issa Chiruma Bakari and all of that. And so you see the outcry. Now, how many of them have lost activists in jail? How many of the activists have died in jail? We saw Tangem die in very horrible conditions. Tangem Donatus died in very horrible conditions, chained to a bed. Chained to a bed. Oh, that kind of outrage that you are seeing among citizens of La République du Cameroon concerning theirs, I didn't really see it among Southern Cameroonians. People just talk here, people talk there, but those people that should say, but this should not happen to our own, they stayed mostly mute. Recently, Pachindango was the next victim. We saw how he was emaciated. We saw how he was completely finished. And we got the horrible stories of how a magistrate collected 3 million from his family, only to cut his jail time from 20 to 10 years, when they told him this man is terminally sick and needed at least to have some kind of treatment. The family still wanted to make some effort to see if by any means they could recover him, or he could at least die as a free man by his loved ones. He was even duped at the point of death. That is what we got. It's true that this time I really saw a lot of people talk about it, but those ones, those big heads, those people who have access to very big offices around the world, who are supposed to stand up and show that outrage and go and say, this is exactly what has been happening over the years, I've still not seen them move. They're still moving around and couching lousy, stupid presidential ambitions in La République du Cameroon. When I see an elite from the southern Cameroons still moving around, thinking, talking serious, thinking like, oh, maybe I can become this in Cameroon, I don't know why I don't see the writing very clear on the wall. As far as France is concerned, there are two sets of people for that triangle. But for the people of the southern Cameroon, that is my concern. As far as France is concerned, no southern Cameroonian should ever aspire to be president in La République du Cameroon. Fit that squarely in your skull. When you do that, you understand why we are in this fight. And La République du Cameroon is not showing any signs of ever cutting the umbilical cord with France. So staying in any form of union with La République du Cameroon means you are deciding, you are accepting that you will forever remain a second-class citizen under France. That is what it is. So people need to know this. We need to tell ourselves this truth, as raw as we can put it, so that people grow to get this, to understand this clearly. I've seen Big Brother Eric Chinje. He's talking about Project C wants to do this, Project C wants to do that. I don't know why our people really don't understand the need to focus on the fight that is winnable, to focus on the fight that makes more meaning, to focus all the energy on the fight that the people support. Because the people of the Southern Cameroons, at least 99% of them, clearly support outright self-determination, absolute independence. This should be an indicator to all those who stand around the world and pride themselves as being elite from the Southern Cameroons. This should be an indicator to you as to what direction to take. That whole nonsense of a Cameroon project is a failed venture. It will never take anyone anywhere. And this is something everyone should know. They should bear this in mind. So, when we say these things, when I say these things this way, some people feel that I'm envious of, some big guns with international reputation of the Southern Cameroons. No, I'm not. I'm simply pointing to a direction that the greater majority of the people of the Southern Cameroons are pointing to. I'm simply saying that truth that some people are afraid of out loud so that everyone should hear and know. This is what it is. Let's focus on a fight that makes sense. There's no point wasting energy on a fight that you know you have lost from the point go. Lost from the get-go. That's fighting against the currents. That said, may the soul of that gentleman, Toby Suleiman, rest in peace. May he rest in peace. Unfortunate that things happen like that in that country, but the people can only make noise on social media. That's where they end. They can't do anything further than that. And those are not people you really want to, bond with. That said, I also saw the story, this is before we get into our main issue of the day, about the GCE board and the rescheduling of part of the examination. When I saw this press release from the Cameroon Minister of Secondary Education, that's Nalova Lyonga, reads that the Minister of Secondary Education is informing candidates, parents, and school administrators with examination officials and the general public that the government has approved the rescheduling of the remaining papers of the ongoing GCE examination. Of course, the communique goes on to say that the exam has been rescheduled for papers that were supposed to be written tomorrow, that's this Monday, the 8th of June, 2026, that the papers have been shifted to the 18th of June, and the exam will now end on the 2nd of July, 2026. But of course, you see, the communique points out certain issues that have made so much noise, and over the years, this has been a key concern, a key problem, with the involvement of some people who have very little minds, who believe that at all costs they need to make money, even where they don't have to, make it, thereby destroying the image of the examination itself, because this talks about massive fraud that that the decision follows a working session with the head of the transition management team of the GCE board, during which he acknowledged the circulation of confidential examination questions through electronic means and the social media platforms. And so she also says that the minister also collected evidence of leakage, which she has handed over to the competent authorities for investigation. So this issue of leakage, I like to say this, it's unfortunate, but I've been talking to a lot of people at the GCE board in Biya, and I've spoken to some people too at the Ministry of Secondary Education in Yaoundé, and they told me that this year in particular, this action has mainly been a sabotage. This is what I was told, that the action has mainly been a sabotage because of the serious infighting that is ongoing for the appointment of a registrar to the GCE board. Because right now, as you just heard from that press release, the team that is in place is a transitional team, and there are a group of people telling themselves that it is their birthright. It is their birthright to be registrar of the GCE board, that the current management team and the person leading that management team had no business being around there, because she's not one of us. I'm saying exactly what I was told, because she's not one of us, and she's like among those people we don't like. And so for that reason, everything has to be done. All kinds of banana peelings have to be thrown on the way to, to discredit the organization of the exam, discredit the GCE board, and then set themselves aside and use this as evidence to indicate that those who are in charge right now are little with no clear idea of exactly how an organization or an examination board of that magnitude should be run. And so I gathered all of that. I actually heard this from people that, that I respect so seriously. I was like, oh my goodness. This is exactly what we are talking about. When you're operating a setup where meritocracy means nothing, where what people think about is only the politics of division, the politics of tribalism, the politics of who I know and who I don't know, the politics of godfatherism and all of those things, this is exactly what you get. So I was even told that even when they reschedule, there needs to be a lot of vigilance, because the same thing might happen just again, because those who are, at the origin of this act are right within the GCE board itself. Those who are responsible for this act are right within the GCE board, some even right within the top management. That's exactly what I was told. So what I'm saying here is it is important for for the people of the Southern Cameroons to recognize that each time we fight among ourselves and take it to this kind of levels and make it this dirty, the only thing we get is Yaoundé will end up telling us that they are sending a Bulu Beti Ekan fellow to come and lot it over us. They have been muting that for quite a while. And don't forget that even been preparing Victor Julius Ngo for a long time to be either to be either vice chancellor of the University of Biya or registrar of the GCE board. We've been fighting that quite strong. And of course, Victor Julius Ngo may be Anglo-Saxon, but he is not a Southern Cameroonian. This is something everyone should know. You see, they actually took the cheating because the exams were already out to a complete new level that I absolutely describe as cheating made scientific. Take a watch.
So when you look here, yes, when you look at the paper, normally it's empty, as if there's nothing. But once you apply the pen now, you look at the writings. You see, and you can read everything that the candidate has written. Imagine the kind of pen. So it's a lead pen.
Don't film the candidate's number.
So when you look here, yes, when you look at the paper, normally it's empty, as if there's nothing. But once you apply the pen now, you look at the writings. You see, and you can read everything that the candidate has written. Imagine the kind of pen. So it's a lead pen.
Yeah, so that is how bad the situation is. We'll take a 30-second break, and when we come back, we'll get into the real issue of the day, which is La République du Cameroun finding itself on the brink. Yeah, thank you very much. After that short trip in Scotland, we are right back in the studio. And I was saying a while ago that La République du Cameroun is on the brink. So you are welcome back to our issue of broadcast this day, which is the visit that Paul Biya has, embarked on today to Switzerland. This 7th day of June 2026, according to the press release I'm displaying to you right here, Paul Biya has, undertaken a trip to Paris. No, not to Paris, I beg you pardon, although it is not written there quite exactly. I see we've run into some technical issues. Let's try to see if we can resolve those. Just a moment while I try to see how we get this issue resolved. Okay, let's go back to the jingle and then thank you very much. You're welcome back. I think we have been able to handle that technical glitch. So I was talking about this press release from the presidency of the Republic of La République du Cameroon, in which we are told that the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, left Yaoundé the 7th day of June 2026 in the company of his wife Chantal for a brief stay in Europe. They didn't exactly say where he's going, but of course, information that I gathered from very trustworthy sources in Yaoundé make clear to me that he's heading to Switzerland, where arrangements have been made in a hospital somewhere in Geneva, where he is going to be taken care of because he had a malaise, and he's had this malaise since the 20th of May, and that malaise started even while the people, the constituted core of the Republic of Cameroon, were at the Unity Palace having fun. That's actually when the malaise happened. It was not something that happened in his bedroom. It's something that happened, during an official moment. And so I understand that delegation is made up of Samuel Vondo Ayolo, who is Minister Director of Civil Cabinet at the Presidency, the Vice Admiral Fouda Joseph, who is Special Advisor at the Presidency, and of course Simon Pierre Bikele, who is the Chief of the State Protocol. The first remark I make is that for the first time in a long while, the President of the Republic is not moving with as many people as he often does. It's true that while this delegation that is published here is, just made up of those who are absolutely in the state protocol, there are quite a lot of people whose names are not mentioned, who are, of course, en route already for Switzerland, somewhere even already in Switzerland waiting. And you definitely know that this trip had been planned and cancelled a couple of times with the private jet that was brought in from, from outside of the country, waiting at the airport for days on end and leaving without the passenger and returning with Biya hesitating, wondering whether he wanted to go or he did not want to go. And so finally today, this 7th day of June, I guess it got to a level he could no longer simply manage that, he could no longer support, and that the local doctors definitely told him that he needed, more advanced attention. And of course, Chantal Biya had been putting a lot of pressure because Chantal is worried. Chantal Biya is clearly worried because she fears that if something happens to him right away, she's definitely not going to enjoy this 7-year mandate that she personally fought for. Because I told you here before that, in the clash of who has to be appointed to whatever position in that country, Chantal Biya has been pulling her weight very seriously, because she doesn't fail to remind Paul Biya that this 7-year mandate, this last 7-year mandate, is absolutely her mandate, because she is the one that took all the risk, because he was hesitant as to whether he wanted to be candidate again. And so for that reason, she believes that he needs, or she has to do everything to ensure that he is alive, because as long as Paul Biya breathes some little air, Chantal and her gang have access to do whatever they want to do with state resources. So Chantal Biya's ability to continue lording it over Cameroon, to continue ruling Cameroon with her, état-major, she needs Paul Biya to be alive. So even if he's going to be just confined in a bed somewhere and is still breathing some air, that has to happen. So that's why she was putting a lot of pressure on the old man to go out there to get this treatment. To try to sustain him a bit longer, giving her and Ferdinand Gongo and her group access to power. Since the people of La République du Cameroon have reduced themselves to waiting for Paul Biya to die so that they get the change. They've refused to fight for themselves. They refuse to do the needful, like it is the case in every other country where things have gotten to this point. That's why when you take a look at this picture of Chantal and Paul Biya at the airport, you ask yourself why they are looking this way. Sometimes you at least see a smile on Paul Biya's face. You at least see him, trying to be, just okay and all of that. But today you see, what he has on his face is more or less a frown. He's not just blank, but he doesn't look happy. He doesn't look, reassuring as it often is the case. He doesn't. And when you look at Chantal herself, who usually when she's in the public space, she's full of smiles, she's full of everything, she's jovial, she's all of that. But you look at the expression on Chantal's face, it shows you that the situation is actually grave. It's not just like, like everybody thinks. And I'll be saying here that in this conversation today, my point is the real issue right now, at this point in time, this Sunday, the 7th day of June, is not whether Paul Biya is actually heading to Switzerland or to whichever country in the world. The real issue is whether Cameroon has prepared itself for a future in which Paul Biya is no longer at the center of every major political calculation. That's the question I'm asking myself. Has Cameroon prepared itself for that moment? And so that is the question now hanging over Yaoundé, over the ruling establishment, over the military, a military that has largely demonstrated that they are more interested in taking advantage in the open corruption that is now very characteristic of the country. And of course, the opposition, an opposition that has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that they don't have what it takes to deliver the change that the people have been expecting it to do. An opposition that has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that they are more interested in getting personal gains, in getting whatever crumbs they can get from the current system than actually trying to replace it to bring the kind of change that the people want. An opposition that has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt that it is in a total disconnect with the wishes and aspirations of the people of that country. And so, let me say, and indeed, the entire country, an entire country that has decided that it's only death that will set them free. And I wonder who told them that the death of Paul Biya can really set them free. We saw it in Gabon. The death of Omar Bongo Ondimba did not set Gabon free. It produced Ali Bongo. Death in Togo did not set the Togolese free. The death of Nyasingbe Eyadema rather produced the son for Nyasingbe, who is there and is still there until today. If Chad too were expecting that death would help them, death did not help Chad. Death rather produced another Debi Mahamat, who is there in Chad. So, and has done everything already to consolidate himself in power. When you look at his age, you understand that the Chadians are in for about 40 to 50 years of another Debi. This is what it is. So if the people in Cameroon think that what happened in Gabon, what happened in Chad, what happened in Togo, and what is on course to happening in Equatorial Guinea next door will not happen in Cameroon, especially with Paul Biya already taking special measures and the whole government apparatus already making it even likely official that it will either be Frank Biya, Frank Ehert, or why not even Georges Gilbert Baonda. Don't even discount Brenda. Don't even discount Brenda Biya. That is in the case where Chantal Biya does not outrightly decide that she wants to be the president. We saw that happen in Zimbabwe, where Grace Mugabe absolutely wanted to be appointed vice president of the party, which would give her access directly to becoming president after the demise of her husband. So this is the central issue that should be on everyone's lips today. Still at the airport today and looking at the officials, of course, I could see Ferdinand Gongo. Look at Paul Biya's face. Look at the expression of Paul Biya's face. It's not the kind of expression you often see when he's shaking hands with Ferdinand Gongo or dishing out some instructions and all of those things. When I even watched the video his expression has just remained like this. He is not very reassuring. He seems very uncertain. He seems blank, because you need to know this. It's a contrast with Ferdinand Gongo, who looks happy, who looks jovial, who even has produced a very broad smile on his face. It's true that from this angle, you are not able to see that smile very well. But let me say this. From within the Unity Palace, those who often tell me things told me that one of the fears that Paul Biya expressed, and he didn't even hide it, was he didn't want what happened to Omar Bongo to happen to him, that he finds himself dying out of the country, because he doesn't know exactly what could happen if he dies out of the country. His fears is what happened to Mobutu Sese Seko, where he found himself in a bad situation and died out of the country, and how his remains were treated could happen to him. So Paul Biya was looking at the situation. Now that everyone knows I'm vegetable, but what happened on the 20th of May before a crowd of the who is who in Cameroon and the diplomatic community who were gathered there for the traditional 20th May gala, Biya tells himself, this kind of move is dangerous. So that's why they really had to take a lot of convincing to make him finally accept to go out to Switzerland for medical attention. That contrast continues. Look at the most disgraced and the most humiliated prime minister here, Joseph John Gute. You see, this is one of the moments where he's really in ecstasy. You see him with such a broad smile on his face, yet Paul Biya is still that blank, totally blank. And that's why I say the political significance of Paul Biya's current trip to Switzerland lies less in the travel itself and more in the circumstances surrounding it. because Cameroon finds itself in an unusual situation. A president who has governed since 1982 is absent from the country at a time when a newly created vice presidential office remains vacant. A promised post-election government reshuffle has not materialized, and the intense speculation continues regarding succession and the future direction of the state. So the government has historically been highly sensitive about discussions concerning Biya's health, even treating public debate on the matter as a national security issue. But now they really can't hide this anymore. It's really, really visible. Everyone feels it. Everyone is talking about it. Even the way Paul Biya is handled during public events, during official ceremonies and all of those things, where they'll have to bar people from moving to the places with either cell phones or Android phones or whatsoever, because they fear that someone can capture the real Biya, the real situation which Biya finds himself. And of course, you see when he's arriving at the 20th May Avenue, you no longer have the cameras show you how he alights from the car. Goes on to review the troops and how he walks and climbs into the presidential tribune. A lot of things are simply butchered, cut, and all of those things. Just like the broadcast, the live broadcast that was going on at the Unity Palace on that 20th of May. You notice at some point ACN TV simply cut off its signals because the situation was bad. And there were threats to people who were present that if they saw a video, anything depicting what happened there, it was going to be hell, or whoever will do that. And those kind of things are happening in a country of over 30 million people, with the youth making the majority of the population. Ask yourself, like, seriously? So that is it. We'll continue to see that contrast. I was talking of Joseph John Gute. You just saw from there. Let's look at this other angle. When you look at this other angle, you notice that the smile on John Gute's face is really broad, very, 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 very broad. You're like, oh, this guy, despite all the humiliation, despite all the the dignification and all of those things, at least he has moments to smile. Perhaps like Ashunyenti of ACN TV said that these moments where they have the opportunity to shake hands with Paul Biya are rare, and they're absolutely important, because when they shake hands like this, they go back home and they are likely to go for weeks without taking a bath because they shook hands perhaps with God. And so perhaps that's what is putting that broad smile on Joseph John Gute's face. But that smile is not met with a reciprocal one from Paul Biya. You still see his expression. And look at Chantal Biya down the other way. Maria Antoinette seems really, really worried. She seems really worried. So you understand from this body language that all is really not well, even as they are embarking on this trip. And so the core issues will remain first, the constitutional question. The restoration of the vice presidential office was widely presented as a mechanism for ensuring continuity and stability during periods of presidential incapacity or transition. Yet months after the constitutional amendment, no vice president has been appointed. So this creates a paradox. And that's why I take time to let us look at these pictures, because as I'm saying this, you should understand that the chaos that a lot of pundits know will happen in Cameroon is definitely inevitable. So I say Cameroon has established a succession instrument, but has left it unused. In stable systems, constitutional successional arrangements are intended to reduce uncertainty. In Cameroon today, the absence of an appointed vice president arguably increases uncertainty, because the public, the political elite, and the state bureaucracy are left guessing who would exercise authority in the event of a sudden emergency. And when you see the way this trip is coming, when you see the way this trip has been arranged, and when you look at the body language at the airport, there is even greater reason for the people to feel worried. There's even greater reason for the people to, tell themselves that the times are not normal. and any kind of thing can happen. And then the second issue is a continuous absence of a new government. You know, following the October 2025 presidential election, many expected a major cabinet reshuffle or the formation of a new government reflecting the realities of a new mandate. That's what happens, and that's what has always happened in Cameroon. As Biya stole one mandate, as Biya stole his way from one mandate to the other all the time. So that process has not yet occurred, despite Biya making clear promises, first on the 31st of December in his traditional end-of-year address, and then secondly, on the 10th of February, on the eve of the Youth Day celebration in that country. I don't know what youth they are celebrating. He reiterated this, but we are today in June, the 7th day of June. No new government in place. It's not a Paul Biya who is seeming sound, safe, and strong today, holding, a council of ministers meeting, which has not held for at least 10 years today. It is a very frail-looking Paul Biya, rather heading out of the country for medical attention. So in highly centralized political systems, delays of this nature often become interpreted as signs of negotiations, rivalries, or uncertainty within the ruling establishment. That is why what this expression on Paul Biya and Chantal's face here, that's exactly what they tell me. So whether those interpretations that I'm giving are accurate or not, the perception itself contributes to an atmosphere of political suspense. So the longer the delay continues, the more speculation grows towards competing or regarding competing factions within the regime and their respective visions for the post-Biya era. And then I'd like to tell you there's, of course, a third factor. And that third factor will still align very much with what everyone has seen and what everyone is talking about regarding, the body language and the way people appeared at the airport today as Paul Biya was leaving for Switzerland. So the third factor is the growing visibility of succession politics. So for several years, discussions surrounding a possible dynastic transition involving Frank Biya and Paul Biya's other children have circulated in political circles, while other influential figures within the state apparatus have also been viewed as potential contenders for influence in a future transition. But the result is a political environment in which nearly every presidential absence is interpreted through the lens of succession. That's what it is now. Every presidential absence today is interpreted basically through the lens of succession. Will he make it all the way to Switzerland? Will he even be able to land in Switzerland successfully? Or something will happen mid-air? When he gets to Switzerland, will he make it for 3, 4, 5 days? Is he going to return to the country alive? How soon will he return to the country? And given the cacophony ongoing within the state apparatus today, where the Prime Minister is being smashed seriously every day by a Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, whose business is not even that of running the government because he's only the Secretary General at the Presidency. With all of that cacophony, the uncertainty grows, the anxiety grows, and the tension goes up another notch. So the question many observers are asking is no longer whether succession will occur, but rather how it will occur, who will manage it, and whether the institutions of the state are strong enough to manage such a succession peacefully. Of course, as a Southern Cameroonian, I can assure you this is that moment that I've been waiting for. And this is the moment every other person in the Southern Cameroons who cares about the freedom of our people has been waiting for. Because La République du Cameroon, whether they like it or not, the seats Paul Biya has sown for 43 years and counting as seats of division. He divided right down to families to the point where strife is inevitable in that country. The only thing, every other thing can happen in that country right now except a peaceful political transition. So let's look at the military dimension, which cannot also be ignored. But in many African states, prolonged presidential rule often leads to a concentration of authority around a small network of trusted individuals within the presidency, intelligence services, and security apparatus. In such systems, uncertainty regarding leadership can generate anxiety not only among politicians but also among security actors. So this does not automatically mean that a coup is imminent. That's not what I'm saying. It doesn't automatically mean that a coup is imminent. But if Cameroon were a serious country, if the military personnel in Cameroon were people who took their country seriously, who took the well-being of their people seriously, the coup in Cameroon, I should say, is even long overdue. So, however, it does not mean that questions of loyalty, command, and access to decision-making become increasingly important whenever the head of state is absent for an extended period. So the fact that Cameroon is simultaneously confronting the southern Cameroon's conflict, security challenges in the far north of La République du Cameroon, economic pressure, and growing social discontent makes institutional clarity even more important. And this is something that I've been talking about and I've spoken about for a long time. So for Southern Cameroonians, the moment is often interpreted differently. Many view the current uncertainty in Yaoundé as evidence of a deeper structural problem, the concentration of national political life around one individual rather than around resilient institutions. Yeah, I'm going to talk about resilient institutions. Because in normal circumstances, if things were going well, you say in the absence of the President of the Republic, of course, the Prime Minister is there to coordinate the actions of government. But this same Prime Minister is absolutely humiliated and smashed every day. That's why for the people, from the perspective of the people of the Southern Cameroons, the debate is not simply about Biya's travel to Switzerland. It is about whether the future of millions of people should remain tied to the health, availability, and personal decisions of a single political figure. The argument frequently advances that political systems built around institutions tend to survive leadership transitions more smoothly than systems built around personalities. For Cameroon, it is a strong man syndrome. Of course, this is something that doesn't tie with the thinking and thought patterns of the people of the Southern Cameroons. And that is why we are different from the people of La République du Cameroon. And that is why this moment is very important for the people of the Southern Cameroon. So of course, I'll say the broader picture is that Cameroon is now experiencing several overlapping pressures simultaneously. First, the succession uncertainty. Second, constitutional ambiguity with the issue of vice president, whether it should be up, it should be down, it should be left, it should be right. Economic challenges. Energy shortages. Of course, even at this moment I'm talking, I'm sure there are people in several parts of the country that can't watch me because of, load shedding, regional conflicts, and rising public frustration. None of these issues was created by the president's trip to Switzerland. We must be clear about this. However, his departure inevitably brings them into sharper focus because it forces the country to confront questions that have been postponed for years. And this is something I've been talking about. And my folks of the Southern Cameroons, are we ready? Are we preparing? Are we taking time to understand exactly what is going on? Are we taking time to prepare for what is to come? So let's be very clear. I've looked at the internet. I went on the internet. I went on social media. I went on Facebook. In fact, I went on several social media platforms: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X, which was formerly Twitter, to see what the citizens of La République du Cameroon are saying. And of course, a good lot of them are expressing the same concern. A good lot of them are telling themselves perhaps the moment has come. And one text that intrigued me very seriously was this one that I saw written by or published by one Nzumanto. I mean, the text essentially claims that Paul Biya's health has seriously deteriorated following an alleged medical incident during the May 20 National Day reception at the Unity Palace in Yaoundé. And his account, according to his account, the president suffered a major physical collapse in front of guests during the ceremony, prompting an immediate intervention by presidential security and palace doctors. And then he further alleges that the presidency impose strict silence on attendees, while the state broadcaster CRTV, of course, that one I saw it and I also said it, interrupted its delayed transmission of the event to conceal that incident. So Zuma also says that the First Lady Chantal Biya had to step in to maintain, the appearance that things were normal and encourage the guests to continue celebrating as if nothing ever happened. So it just takes us to the heart of that drama, of that make-believe that Cameroon has generally become. And Zuma goes further to say that Paul Biya now depends heavily on orthopedic support devices or medical prostheses to remain physically stable, like when he stands. He needs those prostheses to hang on, because just by himself, Zimanto says he will not be able to, stand. And so he says that Zimanto says he puts this in a very dramatic phrase, implying that the regime's end, that the end of the Biya regime is inevitable. Where he says if it is not in the morning, it will be in the evening. That if it doesn't end one morning, it will end one evening, meaning that change or collapse may only be a matter of time. And of course, I was bringing this here to broach it so you see that it is the same thought pattern across the board. Even citizens of La République du Cameroon know that, it's crazy. So his text also reflects another growing phenomenon in Cameroon today, the collapse of public trust in official communication. That's one other thing I picked out of that text by Nzumanto. It was a very elaborate text. So he said, because the presidency rarely provides detailed or transparent updates about the president's health, speculation flourishes in the vacuum. And so every unusual appearance or delayed public outing, interrupted broadcast or diplomatic cancellation becomes subject to intense interpretation. So you should also note that in many African political systems built around powerful presidential figures, opacity surrounding leadership health often fuels rumors of coups, elite infighting, and the succession struggles. So Cameroon is now increasingly exhibiting these dynamics. And that's why I say the situation in that country right now is absolutely precarious. And so for many Southern Cameroonians, texts like that of Nzumanto simply reinforce those long-standing arguments that the crisis in the former UN Trust territory of British Southern Cameroons, aka Ambazonia, cannot be separated from the broader governance crisis affecting Cameroon as a whole. And this is what I've been saying, especially to those who say you talk so much about La République du Cameroon. Keep saying there is no way you can absolutely separate this. So increasingly, some observers argue that the country is entering a dangerous period where unresolved succession tensions, centralized power, economic hardship, and multiple armed conflicts are converging simultaneously. So in this sense, the significance of this travel by Paul Biya is clear. If anything happens to him while he's out there, your guess is as good as mine. If he stays out there too long for anybody's comfort, your guess is as good as mine. The appetite within some people, even within that system for power now, has, reached fever point. And the military is extremely divided. Divided because there are so many parts that have been created, and they are meant to actually conflict or to actually neutralize each other, because Paul Biya believes in dividing and the ruling to ensure that he maintains loyalty. But at some point, the strength that it presented yesterday becomes a major weakness and becomes a driving force for exactly what he might have been praying not to happen ever. And so we will keep our arms folded. We will keep our ears to the ground. We will continue to monitor the situation. And as it evolves, I'll be right here on the JMA Connections to break it down so that together we make meaning out of it. But for my people of the Southern Cameroons, my message is clear. We have to stay vigilant. We have to stay mobilized. We have to stay focused. This is not time for us to joke, because opportunities like this ones, when you miss them, it may take you a very long time to gather the momentum that we currently have to get to this kind of height again. This is why we must do our homework. We really have to do our homework. I want to thank all of you who were part of this broadcast today. If you were here today on the JMA Connections for the first time, please do well to hit on that subscribe button and personalize so that anytime something new drops on this platform, you will be the first to know. And of course, make sure to share the link to this communication as much as possible. On the JMA Connections, we share the links to communications just so that we continue to reach as many people as possible. And of course, ensure that you participate in the ongoing conversation. Participate in the conversation about ensuring the freedom of our country by using the comment section. Drop a comment. Let me hear from you. Let me get your feedback. But especially, please stay on the issues. No personal attacks are accepted on this platform. And do not forget to drop a like, okay? Do not forget to drop a like. It generally goes a long way. So thank you very much for your very kind attention. To God be all the glory.